Here we go. Well, welcome to the party. I am Carissa Orr, and I am supported today not only by all of you who joined us here, but by Amy Bedner. So if at any time in our chat you can reach her if you need, I don't know, you can't see something or you can't sign in, you can drop that in the chat either as a whole or directly to Amy, and she will get us the support we need for you to participate today. I am going to close so I can't see myself because then I'll keep fixing my hair and messing around with my headphones. I am Carissa Orr, more importantly and most importantly, and welcome to Understanding and Responding to the Brain Science of Behavior. The information I'll present today is based on the work of Dr. Becky Bailey of Conscious Discipline, as well as some other resources that at the last slide you'll see them cited, and also an opportunity to learn more outside of today. If you need to reach me after or during this session, even if you're so inclined, my email address is right here above this cute little kid's head, orrc@risa.net. And then my phone number directly is 313-575-6916 for anybody who would like to talk about this or anything related outside of this session together. I am an early childhood consultant at Wayne Risa, as is Amy and Kathy too. So we are good at engaging in virtual learning and leading it, but better at being on the floor in the moment with children and teachers. So thank you for giving me an opportunity today to share some other talents I have in a virtual way. While we are engaging in virtual learning, I will invite you to turn on your video for connection's sake if you are in a place and space and headspace that you're able to do so. And if not, no questions asked. I completely understand. I would like to say that what happens on Zoom is private and confidential, so there will be times where I will open the floor to share. Now, today is a little different because we are recording. So when there are times for us to share openly, I will pause the recording or ask that Amy pauses the recording so that we can get some genuine connection happening here. I have on the right side the 4 ingredients of successful connection, which are eye contact, present touch, and playfulness. That is information from Dr. Becky Bailey that I find incredibly helpful to make sure that I am showing up in the best way that I can to connect with others. If you have not yet used Zoom, you're in for a treat because you made it this far without having done so. But here is some info about Zoom. Again, if you are in a place and space that it's unable to turn on the camera, totally okay. But we are happy to see you and connect with you if you are able. Either way, whatever's best for you. To mute and start video to share yourself, you can see this little camera above the number 2 here. Oops. Click to see participants. If you want to raise your hand to share, you can, or you can just also unmute. It'll be a little more informal once I get this fun housekeeping out of the way. If you want to chat, you have a little chat button that is above number 6 right here, in the, I don't know, middle to the right side of the screen. And then reactions are fun. If you like what I'm saying, you can do a thumbs up or a smile. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can just keep that to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. You're welcome to share that too. I'm a very, very good at taking feedback constructively. Again, this is the chat. So if you want to chat to just me or just somebody, it's going to say private in a little red. If it is going to everybody, it will not say private. So be informed and be warned. And again, all right, here we go. More importantly, here are some objectives. Now, if you have any questions about Zoom, you are welcome to chat with Amy in our chat, and she will get you situated, or you can probably look it up on TikTok, right? Figure everything out there. I see some people are just joining us. So Amy, I'll ask you to just put in the attendance link. I'm sure you already are, but I have my chat closed. All right, so getting into what my grandma would call the meat and potatoes, because that's just what my grandma says about anything and everything in life. Want to get into the meat and potatoes? The objectives for today. First, we will identify the principles of the conscious discipline brain state model. If you have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to that, be ready for some fun information that you can take and apply to your everyday life right here and now. If you have already studied conscious discipline or trauma smart or any of those similar types of, I don't know, second step has some stuff, lots of stuff out there, then you're going to be like, oh, this is just another way to think about this information. Still all good stuff. I like to hear it in lots of different ways so I can pick and choose what I want to use when I'm sharing it with others. So keep that in mind. Identify behaviors and skills and responses of the survival state, emotional state, and executive state. Goes back to that brain state model. And then understand that permanent behavior change requires us to manage our inner states so that we can change how we respond to others. So sounds very simple. If we're all fired up, those around us are going to be all fired up most likely. And if we are calm and regulated, those around us will be more likely to be calm and regulated. And so that, my friends, is the magical answer to just about anything in the classroom and in life, really. Keeping our cool is the goal. So this is an opening activity. I will invite you, if you again are able to turn on your cameras. We're going to do a little song and dance here because, you know, not only do I work in early childhood where we do lots of singing and dancing, but it's doing it because it's good for our brains. And we're going to talk a lot about brains today. So I will invite you, if you want to turn on your camera and play along, you can. If not, you are welcome to stay seated, but I will tell you that moving around and grooving around is good for your blood flow in your brain. This is a song that is a little silly, but we are going to use it as a talking point in the next slide. So here we go. I'll feel free to join me in the movements. I'll lead them. Can you hear Amy?
Ooh, let the manners out.
Point to yourself. There you go.
Ooh, let the kindness out.
I did.
Ooh, let the caring out. It must have been you.
Must have been you. Who, me?
Yeah, you. So turn around.
I can't really do it. Let's see.
Put your hands in the air. Shake your body. Show me you care. Turn around.
Turn around.
Put your hands in the air. And
All right, big deep breath together.
like me.
Let it out. All right.
Ooh,
Thanks for playing along. I know that sounds a little silly and a weird way to start our afternoon training on what is it, a Monday? Is it a Monday? It's a Monday. But just so you know, that is not just fun for me to do on my own, but it's really, really beneficial to get our vagus nerve opened up and flowing, to get all the blood flow to our brain where we do almost all of our thoughtfulness and in information processing all is in our brain. So who doesn't want more blood flow to their brain? And also, if you ever hear Becky Bailey talk conscious discipline talk, she'll talk about joy juice. And it is the serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine in our brains that give us the energy and joy. Or when you're she describes it as if you're out somewhere and you make eye contact with a person you might be interested in, that's that joy juice starts flowing. You get a little dose of serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine to be like, ooh, hey. So if you are out looking for somebody, maybe that's how you know that they're the right somebody. Or maybe you meet a new student on your first day of school and you guys make eye contact and you're like, oh, you're going to be my person this year. Maybe you're going to meet a new assistant teacher or a new administrator. And I'm inviting you to look for that joy juice, look for that feeling of, oh, that joy, that little bit of warmth. And then let your kindness out, let your caring out, let the manners out. I'm wondering if anybody is so willing to share. When is someone most likely to let the kindness out? I gave you a couple examples. If you're out and about looking to meet people and you make eye contact with somebody from across the room and a smile happens, right? Kindness might be more likely to be let out instead of if that person hurries up and turns away. Or if they have the face of, I don't want to talk to you, right? Then the kindness will not be let out. How about anybody else in the chat? When is someone most likely to let the kindness out? Something kind, to do something kind. Oh, during church, very often. Yes, when you see a smile, thank you. There's lots of right answers, not many wrong ones. Yes, when you feel seen and heard. Holidays for a lot of people are a good time to let kindness out. Yes, it's more likely when we're doing stuff together in community that we are letting our kindness out. On vacation, yes, when we have time to do what brings us the most joy, it is easier to let the kindness out. The person at the Myers door, Yes, that is actually my goal in my retirement life. I just want to stand at the door somewhere and greet people. Maybe not at Meijer because I don't do a lot of grocery shopping, but I think I would be really good at it. If I was standing somewhere like more fun than Meijer for me, maybe like a Maurice's or Old Navy or Bath and Body Works. I don't hate those places. I just like don't love grocery shopping, but I want to be the door greeter to be like, "Hey, thanks for coming." Yes, when we are feeling happy, it is more likely to let the kindness out. Now, I'll invite you to think about now walking in the door to school after you've been stuck in traffic trying to get to work on time, or when you hear that child coming down the hallway and you know it's them, and the sound lets you know it's them. It's a little harder, maybe, to let the kindness out in those moments. And so thinking about that is a great reminder that we are in charge of our brains. And the power of the pause is another piece to the magic wand of self regulation that is going to help us have a great school year and a better quality of life. Because once we understand that brain science, we now can apply that knowledge and that power. We hear self-regulation quite a bit. If you work in early childhood, hopefully you're hearing it a lot too at the elementary and K to 12, or yeah, I guess K to 12 levels. About self-regulation is the skill that allows us to put a pause between the impulse and the action. It is the pause that makes me check my bank account before I click buy now on Amazon. It is the pause that helps me break just a little earlier than I actually need to because I see the red light coming, right? Self-regulation is that power of the pause. And it is a power that not just as people, but as educators, we can use to our advantage because not only will it help our brains have more of that joy juice and have more opportunities to let our kindness out, but it is going to teach those around us to do the same. If you work with me, like Amy and Kathy do, you know that I had a hard time developing inner speech because I don't really know why, but I talk about everything out loud, which I think is why I identify so well with 4-year-olds in our preschool classrooms, our state-funded Great Start Readiness Program classrooms, because I think my development of inner speech stopped at around age 4, and I'm still working diligently to develop it. What I can tell you is that it requires us to access our inner speech, self-regulation does, in order to regulate our emotions, which is why you see so many children losing it in the Meijer store that needs a greeter to help cheer everybody up, because sometimes grocery shopping with children is hard. Grocery shopping by myself is also hard for me. But it's when you think of children and you say, oh, they say the darndest things, or what's the other one, Amy? From the mouths of babes, right? People say these things. It's because between 0 and 3, children use external speech. They use external speech to think through things. Now, before they have language, children think in pictures, which is very helpful because they rely on adults to guide them through every emotional moment. And if you've seen some of our classrooms in Wayne County preschools, you'll see lots of things are visual schedules, visual, not just the text, but pictures of children doing the things, picture of the way things could look if they were cleaned up in order to help support us during cleanup time. Before 3 years old, we think in pictures. After 3 years old, we start beginning inner or external speech. And then later, it's not until closer to age 6 that most children, most being the operative word there, develop internalized self-talk. So that's true inner speech. They can't start calming themselves without it. So before age 6, it is a learned skill. And after age 6, if you've never had the opportunity to learn these skills, then it is yet again going back to external speech. So everything I say in my head, I say out loud. And it can sometimes clash with our social expectations out in the world and especially in our classrooms. You might see in classrooms that there are some help with these visuals of things that we use. If you haven't seen these before, you can find them at challengingbehavior.org, which I will share at the end of our slides today. Lots of our info came from this pyramid model. I was looking for my book I was going to hold up. But this national NCPMI is a pyramid model, and the challengingbehavior.org is the website with all of this information about Tucker the turtle and other ways to calm down. Conscious discipline has so much to offer in regard to these strategies of blowing like a star. You stop, take a deep breath, and relax. So it doesn't matter which model we're using, as long as we're actually doing it, because children need to learn through visuals. And the more we teach children, it's going to help our brain focus on self-regulation. And the other great thing about today is that what I can tell you, what is predictable is preventable. And the second piece is that what we focus on, we get more of. So my focus today is thinking about early childhood classrooms, which is why I keep talking about early childhood classrooms. And my focus is also on brain development and engaging adult learners. And so I am working to do all of those things. What I focus on, I get more of. And here you go. I got another training to do after this one. What we focus on, we really do get more of. The same way if you buy a red car, you suddenly start seeing so many red cars on the road, because what we focus on, we get more of. So if we spend a lot of time focusing on how we can calm down, spending a lot of time focusing on how we can solve problems with this Tucker the Turtle guy, it is really hard to beat the neurons that we're building for ourselves and for the children in our care. It's really hard to build new neural pathways that help us do that after age 6. So we have a real opportunity in preschool years. That's not impossible. It's not impossible. I'm still learning it. Our brains are neuroplastic. But it is way more easy to teach these skills in early childhood, which is why we are here today. Each brain state that we're going to talk about next, if you're seeing some color coded, that is preloading your brain. Each brain state provides perceptual filters through which we interpret events. Becky Bailey says this. She is the leader and founder of Conscious Discipline, who I keep mentioning today because her work is really taking the research that early childhood has known all along and putting it alongside silly songs and other strategies and things that are accessible to people like us who work with children and want better for our children and better for ourselves and better for our families. And so when our brains interpret things, or perceive things, that is the reality in that moment. So conflict is threatening and bad. You need to be punished. Two kids are fighting over blocks. I'm taking all the blocks away. They're gone. Might also look like conflict is irritating and upsetting. It's like, I don't terribly disagree with that. Nobody wants conflict typically, unless we're looking at it as an opportunity to teach, but this must be stopped. So if our goal is to stop it, then we are seeing conflict as irritating and upsetting. And if conflict is a call for help and a teaching opportunity, this must be solved. So we have all
Can't
these
do
three
it
different
on
ways
my
that
phone
we
because
can.
when I keep trying to do it,
Hi.
then it
Oh, you're good. Okay. I didn't know if anybody wanted to jump in. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I love talking about perception. Please, if that's the case, jump in. I'm ready. I'm in. So all the ways we can perceive conflict take us to which brain state we're perceiving it from is what the goal is. It was what the messaging is here. So if we perceive it as threatening and bad, we will need to be punished. If we see it as irritating and upsetting, we have to stop it right away. But if we see it as a call for help and a teaching opportunity, it must be solved. But we can't do that if we're way down in the lower centers of our brain, down here where it's red. That is the survival state. That is fight or flight. That is lots of things on TikTok talk about your vagus nerve and the feelings you have when this is activated and needs to be activated. And that means that you are in your survival state. So your only goal, your body is preparing. I hate to say this, but your body is preparing to die when you are in the survival state. It is asking, am I safe? And it is saying, no, I need to do anything I can to preserve the energy and keep safe. So you'll start to feel maybe lightheaded. You'll start to feel a little sweaty sometimes. Your heart rate will increase. All those physiological responses are your body's way of preserving. So if you think of yourself walking in the morning and you haven't had the joy juice experience, you've had a survival state experience, you were almost sideswiped on the freeway and now you're just happy to get to work on time and safely, or maybe late, but still thankfully safely, we have a choice to do that practice power of the pause and do one of our silly little things that works for us to get us in a headspace, in a brain state that we are ready to have. What can I learn today? We can ask that, because what if all of our students and all of the parents and all of the teachers we work with showed up every day with the mindset of, what can I learn today? What an opportunity we would have to learn from one another and really get those student outcomes met. But we know that reality is not the case. We do not show up every day in our executive state asking what we can learn. We often show up in the am I safe survival state, and we often show up in our emotional state, right? Thinking about, I saw so many pictures on social media today when I was scrolling on my lunch break of children's first days, and everybody looked pretty happy in theirs from what I could see on social media. And I wonder how it really went. I wonder how many emotional state arguments were over hair and what shoes I'm gonna wear, and do I have to wear a jacket or not? And I picked this book bag out yesterday, but I don't want it anymore. Lots and lots of opportunities for emotional state, because we're really looking, the question that our brains are asking there is, am I loved? So in the survival state, when we are pretending to fight or flight, we are preparing to survive. In an emotional state, it's like, do I belong here? Does anybody love me or care? And while we can say to our children or others, and yes, we care, you're here, it's through the experiences that they have that their brain really, their body gets to know that. Because saying it and doing it, as we all know, are two different things. And then our executive state, that's the goal. That's where we want to be. Sadly, our brain develops from the most primitive to the most advanced. So when we are babies and we are born, we have this low center of our brain. Let's see here. Low center of our brain. At the bottom is our brain stem, which is that survival state, develops first. And then we get our emotional state. And then way up there, that neocortex is where our executive state is housed, where we can problem solve, where we can learn and take in new information. And the interesting piece, I'll go back a couple now, is that when we think of the two models that we look at, with the pyramid model for early childhood or pyramid model for K to 12, we see that in the bottom, it's really the same stuff. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we see the same stuff too. But our brains aren't built to just automatically show up knowing the brain state model, which would make for an effective workforce. We're not born knowing the seven powers for conscious adults, because we are taught things in school or through our families of ways that they've done discipline for years and years and years that maybe don't align with how research is showing us to do things in a year of 2025, based on more data, more research, more experiences that people have had, some adverse, some great. And so when we think of how our brain processes, it doesn't really set us up for success in comparison to these models. So we have to work at it a little bit. We have to work at it a little bit. And the great thing is that there are people like us in this world who are learning and studying and trying really hard to access our brilliance, to get into our executive states as often as possible, so that we can support others who are not quite able to just yet. So we'll begin. Our goal now is that you had a little understanding of some brain states, and we're going to dive into them so that when we see these brain states in action in ourselves, we feel them coming up and we notice them. We can also diagnose. We can also notice them or diagnose them in others. I have 4-year-olds in my preschool classrooms saying to me, Miss Carissa, he is in her brainstem. He is in his brainstem. He is in his brainstem. He needs help. And if my 4-year-olds can say it in our classrooms, then I am positive that we can adapt and learn to do something similar. Whether, again, if it's I know Trauma Smart is like the trunk of the car, the middle of the car, the front of the car, I believe, is their kind of analogy for brains. This Becky Bailey conscious discipline brain state model is using this color-coded brain model, which just really resonates with me. And that's where we're going with this. So the goal, again, today, everybody, is to recognize these brain states, because what is predictable is preventable. When we feel those brain states getting activated, we can prevent it. We can give our brains and our bodies what it needs so that we can get into access the higher centers of our brains and access our brilliance. Who doesn't want more brilliance? Here we go. The survival state. The functions of this system are online at birth, right? I said that our brains develop from the most primitive. So they're just trying to survive first, and then they're trying to feel loved second, and then they're trying to learn some stuff. Once all these two things are met, then and only then can we learn some stuff. So you can see how important getting out of these, working our way up, taking our elevator from the bottom of our brain to the top of our brains repeatedly over and over again every single day throughout the day, inside of work, outside of work, is really necessary and important. So the functions of the brain stem, it's our survival system. It modulates states of arousal. So the kids you have that are hiding under the table or ready to throw a chair, I think of us as educators. I have a colleague who, when she has got a rough day, she wants to go take a 3 to 4 hour nap, sleep. So she's a flighter, right? If we think about fight or flight, she is down for the count. I need to sleep to regulate, and that's what I do. Same with kids who are hiding under the table versus me, who wants to figure it all out right now, even though I need to probably practice the power of the pause. There are lots of ways that we show up for this and lots of ways that we can help. I'm going to give you just, or invite you for just a moment to take a look and let me know in the chat if you've ever seen any of these showing up in yourself or in your classroom. Any of these survival state skills. When we think of them as skills versus challenging behaviors, it really shifts our thinking. All right, so I'm looking in the chat. See, anybody ever see any of this stuff? Experienced all of these. Okay, so so I'm not doing a bad job of assuming that some of these survival state skills show up for us every day. It's really weird for me to give a PD like this because I'm used to talking and having lots of interaction, and I think that maybe this is not the the arena for that. So thank you everybody for hanging with me. Yes, all of them. Yes, you agree. You've seen some of these things. And so what we can look at are these are survival state skills. So if we can pause when we are hit, or pause when we are kicked, or pause when the kid runs to hide under the table and not be with us, or they try to fool us, another one, and say, I didn't put that, or actually they're not going to say this in the survival state skills, but they're going to have some toys in their pocket and they're just going to quietly leave with them. Survival state, they don't know if they're going to have toys coming again another time, and so they're trying to deceive out of their misery. Maybe outside they want to have those toys at home, and that's the most important to them for survival because they're little brains, and that's what's important.
Someone asked, what about freeze?
Yeah, so that's kind of like flight. So freeze, flight, and fawn. Man, there's so many F words as part of the survival state skills. Yeah, so flight would be the similar idea to a freeze. So you're hiding under the table. I'm thinking of preschool classrooms, leaving the room, right? What our behavioral specialist, Dr. Kelly Anderson, calls eloping, what many teachers just call as runners. They're exiting the classroom in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, so the same idea that is all part of the survival state. And so if you see any of these behaviors, you're going to be like, I know what that looks like. Just imagine a world where somebody hits you. Again, not another adult, but a 4-year-old. It hurts and it sucks, and I'm with you on all of it. But just imagine a world where we've created enough neural pathways in our brain that when some kid tries to push us or hit us or hides under the table, no matter all the great things we've done, that we stop and pause and say, that's the survival state talking. What do I need to do? So we can look at the characteristics. We're going to look for no eye contact. We're going to look for resistance to questions, touch, and understanding. So this is not the time to practice the 6 steps of conflict resolution at all. You're going to you're going to see a tense face and body. Child feels cornered or powerless. So imagine the kid who runs out your room and now everyone is on a walkie-talkie and there's 5 people chasing him to make sure he doesn't leave the building because that's part of the action plan. What that might feel like in the survival state literally feels like you're being chased by a bear, right? It's those analogies we see. And so what we can do as adults is notice, use an assertive voice, have routines with pictures, remain composed, and have some strategies in place that we can talk about another time called Safe Place and Safe Keeper that if you want to know about, you would Google conscious discipline, or you can email me after this session and I'll be happy to talk more about that with you. So we're really basing our observations here on these characteristics. We're trying to see what it looks like in the survival state, because a kid or another adult is not going to come to you and be like, I am in the survival state. I feel like I am fighting or flighting or freezing or fawning or any of these F words that are part of the survival state. They're not going to come to you and say that. Wouldn't it be an easier time if they did? But they will not, unfortunately. We have to look for the freeze. We have to look for the fight, and we have to respond in a helpful way because we want to respond, not react. Something I have heard over and over again, but it makes so much sense in my daily life because if you think about calling 911 for I don't know, an emergency, you don't want somebody who shows up like my mother, like, what's going on? What's wrong? You want a responder to come in and say, I see there's a problem. I will help you with this bandage, or whatever the response needs to be, right? We don't want a reactor. We need someone to respond. And so as adults, we have to respond to children because they don't need reactors. They need responders. We also ourselves need responders. And the best way to do that is to be our own responders, not our own reactors. We have the power to practice the pause. We can do, now I know that when you get hit in the face by a 4-year-old with a block in their hand because they're mad that they didn't get their, I don't know, chicken nuggets for lunch, it is hard to practice this power of the pause. I really do get that. And that is a real absolute thing. If you are in the K to 12 world and this sounds ridiculous, yes, it is. And yes, it does. And I wish that our problems were simply that about not getting chicken nuggets, but you know that there's many other challenges that arise throughout the day with bullying and peer to peer and homework and oh my gosh. All right, so we have to disengage stress for ourselves because if not, we're going to get beat out by our student who is going to get us all fired up and activate our survival state. The goal here is to always stay in our executive state, but we have to work at it. And so disengaging stress is breathing. So teachers are like, what do I do? What do I do? And man, they hate it. But the first thing I got to say is you got to stop, pause, and breathe, not for the child, but for you. Because the more of those bad chemicals and that cortisol that runs through your body, the more wrinkles we get, the more health problems we can have, the more activated our possible adverse childhood experiences and triggers are. And we don't need that in our lives. We need goodness. We need joy juice. We need serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine. I have this lovely poster on my wall to keep myself remembering our ingredients to joy juice. And so we have to stop and breathe. Here's all these conscious discipline ways to breathe. If you want some handouts and fun stuff for your classroom or for yourself or for your home, my 9-year-old and I still do these. They're all around our house. They moved into 2 houses with us. We take them everywhere we need to because it helps us both remember seeing a visual like, all right, before I do this, before I freak out that my mom just told me to be quiet on my video game because she's on a training call, I am going to stop and breathe and just say, okay, I understand. And he turned his stuff down and we moved on. So we can diagnose the survival state by looking again for some of those surefire ways, no eye contact, resistance to questions. Somebody said flight, right? Is that what somebody had mentioned? Oh, what about flight? Yeah, so hiding, avoidance. Absolutely. Now, our limbic system lives in our emotional state. The emotional state is what you probably see the most of. Anybody ever heard like, I'm never going to play with you again. You're never coming to my house. What else? What else do kids say? Oh, the birthday party. You're not coming to my birthday party. That one is a good one. My
You're not my
9-year-old is
friend
really,
anymore.
oh yeah, you're not my friend anymore. You're not my friend anymore. I just recently said that to a friend of mine who didn't like what I had to say when she asked me a question. And I said, are you going to take your ball and go home now? You didn't like what I had to say. And she was like, no, I'm going to breathe first because you said I'm supposed to. Good times. All my friends are learning all this brain science. Yes, fight and flight all day long is one of the last comments a few minutes ago. And sometimes that's the case because we don't know what's happening outside of school. Or sometimes today, I mean, I've had a great day and I'm still feeling a little in my emotional state and a little bit. And I wanted to take a nap earlier and I couldn't because it's just so many things coming into the new year throwing at your brain. Makes me want to shut down. I was able to stop and take a deep breath. I was able to go walk around the block one time and boom, here I am talking to you guys without any problems. So yes, fight or flight can go on all day. All of these brain states can go on all day. And so our goal is not just to teach things, but we have to address these, help students and ourselves take this elevator up so that we can be in the frontal lobe of our brain to be able to learn. So look at all these, I'll invite you for a moment to take a look at this limbic system, the functions before we go any further. Especially this last one comes online with the word no. You'll hear things like no running, no hitting. We don't do that in our class. We immediately, our brain just tells us to flood with the chemicals and activate that middle part of our brain, our emotional state. So when you hear kids calling you a bad word or saying, I hate everything, or this is stupid, or when you yourself are like, I'm done with this profession, I'm not doing this anymore, take a breath because you are in your emotional state. And if you're able to acknowledge that, you're less likely to dwell on those feelings of, I'm never doing this, I got to find a new career path, et cetera, et cetera. We can also notice that some of these functions of our middle brain are what we really need from students. right? We need their attention system to be in good working condition, their motivation system. We need ourselves to have attention system and motivation systems that are well functioning. We need control of our appetite and sleep cycles to be well and functioning to be our best self. So our middle part of our brain, that emotional state, the limbic system, is really responsible for a lot of necessary functions to be a student and to be a teacher, let alone just participate in life, right? So if you are reading some of these, I'll invite you to and seeing like, ooh, I'm really like that, or I know someone who's really like that. They're not actually really like that. They're just stuck in that middle part of their brain. So I'll invite you now to just take a moment and look at some of these. If you too have children, I'm sure you've heard, you never let me, or you always say, which makes me want to like have a visual chart of all the days that we had macaroni and cheese or pizza for dinner. And so just the fact that we're having grilled chicken and noodles later doesn't mean we never have what you like, right? So there's me in my emotional state responding to another emotional state, with just continues the cycle of what we've had or not had, and we're just blaming limbic thinking. We don't want to be limbic thinkers. We want to be executive state thinkers. So when we're looking out for the emotional state, we're going to have some body relaxing. So instead of that really tenseness, oh, I can't do it, I'm so mad, or that complete gone that you said about flight, like you're just the kid's looking at you, but empty stare, or somebody else is looking at you, but empty blank stare, not responding. Their body might look relaxed, but they're still in that emotional state. They're just thankfully out of their survival state. They're not as tense. Eye contact and touch are helpful. So there's a surefire way to figure out if it's somebody else is in their emotional state or their survival state. If you go to look right in their eyes, or you go to rub their shoulder and they're like, whoa, or they just have no response, you'll know. And if they are seeking connection, understanding, or power. So if they're still negotiating, but wait, can we? But wait, can I? But wait, how about? If there's negotiating happening, you know that that other person is in their emotional state. And if you're negotiating right back, or if you're feeling your body tense, you know that you're getting out of your executive state and need to get back to it. So we got to be able to identify in these things so that we can respond as best we can. So our emotional state response skill, we are looking for this skill of DNA as a strategy that I'll share with you guys at the end of our time together, because it looks like noticing first and pausing, waiting for that eye contact. Then it says, you seem upset. So let's go back to your, you mentioned that somebody would just like freeze, right? So they're just let's say they're just freezing. They're just staring at you blankly and they're right in front of you, or maybe they sit down and look down and they're just gone. And wow, you might say your body is going like this. Your face is down looking, and that person eventually, after being noticed and described for a little while, is going to look up, and you're going to have that eye contact. And there's your moment. There is your highly sought after moment, teachable moment to pause and download calm. It's like, hey, there you are. That must have been hard. You seem really frustrated. You seem really mad. You wanted to have macaroni and cheese again for dinner. End it there, right? Just end it. You're just want somebody to know, I hear you, I feel you, you are seen, heard, and understood. It's not going to change the outcome, but I'm with you, because that's going to help somebody else, not just ourselves, but the other person we're supporting and responding to move up into a higher center of their brain. Like, oh, we're on the same team here. They get me. Not going to give me what I want necessarily all the time, but they get me. I'm heard. And then we can jump right up to our executive state, which is where the money is, which is where the joy juice is, which is where the problem solving is, which is where the kindness comes out. So if we go back to the beginning, it is most likely for the kindness to come out when we are in our executive state. We are not hiding or fighting. We are not telling you you're not my friend anymore and you're not coming to my birthday party. We are able to be like, hey, I didn't like that. Could you try it like this? I have a great example. I was recently in this past school year called some very choice words by a 4-year-old that included ugly and white and then the B word. And the teachers were floored. They were like, see, Chris, that's what he does all day, every day. He does this all the time, every day. And I said, hang on a minute. And I bent down and I had my name tag with me. I don't have it now, but I'll pretend like I do. And I had my name tag with me and I said, hey, dude. Now there was my mess up because I let my regular speech, I say dude a lot. Dude, you forgot my name. My name is Carissa, Miss Carissa. Right here, it says it on my name tag. So you'll call me Miss Carissa. Try it now. And he said, okay, Miss Carissa, can I still go outside? And I was like, yeah, we can still go outside as long as you, or not as long. I said, as long, yes, we can still go outside. I just wanted to make sure that you knew my name was the Miss Carissa. And he said, okay. And the teacher's like, you're not going to do anything. That's all you're going to do. That's it. And I was like, well, yeah, because we solved the problem. He called me outside my name. Now he called me inside my name. Teachable moment. Moving on. Did it feel good to be called those hurtful words by a 4-year-old? No, but I was more sad that he knew to call me that than my feelings were hurt. So when we are able to be in charge of our brain state, when we know what we're looking for and dealing with, we are more able to respond and keep ourselves together and keep others together. So when we are in our executive state, we focus on what we don't want first. We are willing and ready to learn a new skill. We are able to reflect and plan, and we see the impact on others. We are more likely to assume positive intent, find consequences that are natural and logical. So in that situation, the natural consequence was he needed to learn my name and call me that name, and he did that. It just took a second, and then we moved on. I was able to reflect and plan, to remind the teachers to use name tags in the classroom to repeatedly refer to, because not just because it'll help him remember to use people's names even when he's activated, his middle emotional state's activated, but because it's great for literacy, right? Lots of opportunities. And so executive skills response progression looks like this. We are only able to do this when we ourselves are calm and safe. So look at your active calming for yourself. I am safe. I am calm. I can handle this. And you tell the student, "Duh, your face is going like this. Your body's going like this." Or you tell yourself, ooh, my belly is starting to hurt. My forehead is starting to sweat. I am frustrated, right? So we can even do this to ourselves. And then we are going to assume positive intent, creating teachable moments with oppositional, shutdown, or defiant students using the power of love to see the best in others. People don't like when we talk about love in a very formal context, but it's science. It is science that the feeling of connection or the feeling of love is really the joy juice flowing around in our brain. So we can I don't know, make love sound wishy-washy and fluffy, or we can just recognize that it's actual science and it is the skill of power of connection. And we can use that to our advantage to be responders, not reactors. I'm going to send some information to you guys after this about some possible responses to the things that children do or say that looks here. So if -10, a child pushes another child, you could think that kid's mean, he pushed her, or you could think, oh, he wanted to turn with the ball. Or a child ignores your direction to turn something off as soon as you tell them to, again, for the millionth time, even though screen time is over for the day and the timer's going off. Oh my gosh, summer is almost over. You might just say, oh, you were hoping you could play on the computer longer. Doesn't have to be the end of the world. It just is what it is. You wanted more popcorn. Somebody stole your popcorn. They just wanted more popcorn. Our choice is how we can feel and respond. Our choice. We have a choice, a collective choice today to play name that brain state so that we are more likely to prevent reactions and support responses. All right, so if you haven't been paying attention, now's the time. We're about to use our chat feature. Get your head in the game. We're going to look for the brain states. We're going to think, are these brain states looking more like a survival state? Are they hiding, fighting, flighting? Are they hitting? Or are they back talk sassing me? Don't you sass me. Or are they whining? There's another one. Or is it wisdom and unlimited skills being shared? So you know that they're in their executive state. Wouldn't that be a perfect world? Here we go. Name that brain state. We got this guy laying around doing nothing. My hint is that he's not talking to anyone and he has been in this position staring blankly into the TV for a long period of time. No talking, staring blankly. Flat affect. What brain state might you think? We have survival state, executive state, or emotional state. Ding, 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 ding. If you said survival, you are the winner of a high five virtually. Thanks for playing. Yes, survival state. We see that there is no conversation happening. There is no visible thought process happening. We see that there is somebody who is just checked out. Ooh. Now, if you're looking at this picture, I would invite you to think of the sound you might hear with this face. There is definitely a sound. And if you have ever been in a restaurant with a baby after 7 p.m., you know the sound. You know the sound. The key clue here is that we do hear sound. It sounds like, I want another breadstick or whatever. There's no more breadsticks. Emotional. Ding, ding, ding. Teachers after a long day. Yes, yes. Teachers after a long day. Yes, emotional state. That emo state, which is many teachers after a long day. Because I'm not saying that any of this is easy to do, but I am saying that it's possible. And the more often we do it, the more likely it is that it's just that quick that it happens. I surprise myself all the time when somebody cuts me off in traffic and I'm like, they must have somewhere really important to be. And I think that genuinely. I really do. I'm not mad. Like, I'm glad we're both safe and I wish them well wherever they're going because it must be really important. And some people that I drive with are like, seriously? And I'm like, it's not worth it to me to have all that bad chemicals running around in my brain making me look older and unhealthy. I want to feel and look my best. So I'm not going to let that guy have my day ruined. All right, let's see another one. Oh, this is like an actual student from last year, maybe the year before. Executive, yes. She wanted to write a song with her teacher. And she asked her teacher to help her write a song. Executive, yes. Able to put our thoughts into practice, able to put our feelings into words. Yes. So we know that it's executive because there was some conversation back and forth we can imagine based on the underwriting that we see here. Let's find another one. Ooh, buddy. Word, nah. My 9-year-old would say, nah, bro. Emotional state. Yes, yes. We can see that with the words that are coming out of her mouth in that word bubble. No, we can see that with the facial expression, like, mm-mm. Now, if we were having a facial expression that scared us, or that was, again, that flat, I'm staring at the TV, we would know that that would be our survival state. But we are here in our emotional state. All right, we got a couple more here to practice. Oh, man, this one. I'm hot and sweaty just thinking about it with my coat on and bending over crying. Now there's tears and boogers wiped on my pants, right? Emotional. This is the definition of emotional state because we're all hearing the sound that goes with this picture, right? We should add sound to these. That would be fun. I could add sound to these. Yes, emotional state. You guys are getting good. Ooh, what about this one? It was, Mom, can I please go jump in the puddle outside? And Mom was like, or Dad or Grandma. In my case, it would have been my grandma was like, go put your jumping in puddles gear on. Yes. And I'm super pumped. And I was, in fact, able to go put on my jumping in puddles gear. And here I am jumping in puddles in my happy executive state because somebody helped me know exactly what to do, put on my gear, and I knew how. And now I get to do what I want. I don't want to go outside. That's what you're hearing. Wah. Maybe a little wah. Emotional. Yep. So we know that it's emotional, not survival, because we hear some words. They're telling us what they want or need. All right, this is a goodie. I'll let you guys and I'll invite you to read. And when you've had a chance to kind of consider, go ahead and drop your answer in the chat. I can kind of describe this. There was a sweet baby with grandpa getting dropped off at school who never wanted to come in the door, and it was this constant struggle. And the teacher had this greeting poster there that every day there was an adult out there to greet the child. The 3 teachers in the classroom took turns being the greeter. And then there was a student who wanted to do it. And so they let the student with the adult out there too be the greeter and asked the children as they came in, which fist bump. And for some reason that worked for this sweet baby. And they were able to fist bump their peer to peer, and walk into the classroom without grandpa, without a meltdown, without reverting or going down into their brainstem. They were able to come in a near emotional state, looking down, kind of staring around a little bit, not too happy, and then boom, get up into their emotional state. And that's what these greeting activities can do, which Conscious Discipline has so much on their website about how to make a greeting apron or a greeting poster like you see in the picture there. Lots and lots of options. We're going to skip that one, even though it's adorable. But for the sake of time, I'd like to just share that if the frontal lobes are not nurtured and developed, so the frontal lobe is when it's an executive state. So if we do not develop this and practice, then we as a society can expect to pay dearly. And what that means and looks like, not just for us in terms of more crime, homes broken, drug use, and violence, but it looks like more what we're all calling and referring to as challenging behavior in our classrooms. So if you teach nothing this year in your class, but you have one student help access their frontal lobe and develop their frontal lobe, you have done your service for our country and our community, and I thank you very, very much for it. We see these symptoms we talked about. We see how ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, are so common in Wayne County. More than 50% of people living in Wayne County today have experienced an adverse childhood experience. And if you have not heard of that, I would invite you to Google that too. There will be a list of resources at the end that I'll share. And you can see this quickly as just knowing what our students and families are coming to us after experiencing, what we are showing up to work with every day after having experienced in our own lives. These are not just the families we serve, but if you live in Wayne County, this is us too. We see depression, obesity, asthma, general poor health in our students and families often because of the impacts, because of the lack of access to people's executive states, because the things, their experiences that happen are perceived by the parts of their brain that make it less likely for us to thrive and live a healthy, happy life. So what are we to do? What is a teacher to do? Well, first and foremost, we need to know what brain state we're in and what brain state we're seeing others in so that we can respond appropriately. We need to practice things. We need to have a plan in place to quit taking things personally. That when somebody calls you an ugly white B word, you know it's not about you. It's about them hearing an adult or somebody in their life use those words towards other people as a meaningful way of expressing feelings, and not take it personally so that we can be responsive. It's being prepared, not scared. From challengingbehavior.org, you will receive after our time together today a handout that looks just like this. It helps you develop a plan that before your buttons are pushed, while your buttons are being pushed. And look it's not even just me, it's asking the people to pause and take a deep breath. That's the power of the pause. It is in not just Becky Bailey's conscious discipline stuff. It is here in our National Pyramid Model website information. So it is not just Carissa or Risa, it is research. Love when that happens. I do have good ideas of my own too. When your buttons are being pushed, you can stop and try some of these things. It's not going to make your buttons not be pushed, but it is going to make you feel better about it and more able to respond in a way that gives you good chemicals flowing through your brain and not hard ones. And then after the button pushing behavior has ended, have a plan of being able to walk out of your classroom for 5 minutes or hide with your water bottle and take several drinks so that you can't talk to anybody until you're done because you just need a minute to yourself. And then thinking, I'm a journaler. This suggests to journal about experiences, but when I journal, it helps me to get all the hard things out of my brain. So mostly my emotional state is living on a piece of paper. But it also helps me to be able to reflect back the next day or days after or years after and be like, ooh, I didn't do that well, but I do it well now. Or I wanted to do better and look that I did. So I really invite you guys to, when you receive this document, to really give some time to think about being prepared, not scared, having a plan for when our buttons are pushed. And every time that some kid calls you a name or hits you or somebody when you're driving is cutting you off in traffic, you're not always going to respond. Sometimes we're going to react. We are human. We are human. We are human. And so give yourself that grace to be like, whoops, messed that one up. Or, hey, I did it well that time. Give yourself the opportunity to reflect and think, whoops, got to do better next time, want to do better next time, or hey, I did it, I'm going to do it again. Give yourself grace and understanding. I'll leave you with this closing activity as a story of the mighty Maasai tribe. I heard this story from Dr. Latoria Marcellus at a conference in October. And she shared this idea, this story that the most accomplished tribe of Africa, known for being the most mighty warriors and fearsome and more intelligent than any other tribe, was the mighty Maasai. And the Maasai warriors would go out into their countryside, leaving women and children in their village. And they would go out into the countryside to fight off enemies, to find food to bring back, to take care of business. And when they would start coming back towards the village and they would see the village in the distance, they would shout out this chant, Kasirian Injira, Kasirian Injira. And what that chant means is, are the children well? It is a question they are asking to their village. Are the children well? And these big, mighty warriors, you would think, are asking lots of other questions besides what's going on with the kids. But in reality, they knew that if the children were well, the village was well. There was enough food. The medical practitioners were helping. There was enough safety that everyone was able to survive and thrive. And so when we think about what we want for this school year after this summer and moving forward for Wayne County, when we think about being responders instead of reactors, we are being a part of being able to answer the question in Wayne County, are the children well? It's more likely that we can answer yes when we are able to recognize and respond and understand the brain science of our behavior. So I thank you for your engagement today. I thank you for your patience today. I thank you for your presence today. I hope that you heard something helpful. And I invite you to complete this evaluation so that I can do a better job in future Summer Blitz opportunities. Thank you, thank you, thank you.